If you're like me or most people on this freeway here today, then chances are you speed. But get ready to pay the price as the RCMP and your local community police introduce photo radar as their newest weapon against speeders. But already controversy is abound. So we take a look at the question, should it stay or should it go? And automatically assume, well, that must be a police officer, I should slow down.
It pays to advertise, and as you can see, just from word of mouth, we haven't reached the point yet where we're actually telling people where and when we're operating.
Okay, that buzzing right now, these are people that are obviously doing more than the speed limit at the top there?
Yes.
And this gives us a rundown of the speeds that have come across as cars go by?
Yes, and this goes into our database, and this is quite a handy feature because there's a lot of areas in the province where the speed limit is set too low. So we if the local traffic safety committee asks us to go to a particular location, and we do what's called a covert survey there, which means we hide in the bushes and we monitor traffic to find out how fast people go on that particular section of highway when they know the police aren't there. And then if the 85 percentile that we calculate out of that is 20 kilometers more than the speed limit, that means to us that and if that's not a high accident area, that means to us that the speed limit's out of whack, and we go back to the engineer with our histogram, like a hard copy of what you see here.
So there is actually a lot of science involved here. I mean, it's just not a matter... Oh, I thought he was going to hit him. It's just not a matter of you standing out here and sending tickets, but you want to, look at the highways and monitor them and decide, what's a safe speed for most highways in certain conditions and whether or not there's a lot of curves or they're straight. I mean...
This is the first time I've seen the police doing a comprehensive investigation of all the high accident sites in the province. Before, it was a case of hit and miss where somebody had be doing his normal police duties and go in and find himself a radar set and go out and do what we call play in traffic. And oftentimes you don't get the consistency there, and there isn't a whole lot of credibility in zapping somebody on a highway that's wide open and straight, and there's no curves and there's no intersection, and there's not a traffic problem there's not an accident problem, yet you're beaming people with your radar set there, and oftentimes members are restricted to operate in areas like that because that's the only safe place for them. If you've got a high accident area and there's a visibility problem there, or if you got a high volume of traffic, a normal conventional radar doesn't do the trick, because if you do get a reading on the chap, trying to step out in the highway and get him to pull over is quite a dangerous act.
Dangerous.
And sometimes a policeman could be more of a hazard doing that than the traffic going by him.
Speaking of dangerous, where do you draw the line at dangerous driving as opposed to speeding? I mean, how fast would a person acceptably go and just receive a speeding ticket, whereas you would have to phone a police officer up ahead down the highway and go, hey, look, this guy's going X amount of speed, we got to pull him over? I mean, are there cases like that where you would look and go, instead of sending this guy a ticket, we're going to chase him down now?
There's a number of options, because you get a photo and you get a radar reading, you get instant evidence that there. Oftentimes with dangerous driving with a member in a police vehicle, he has to follow him for some time to get evidence not only of speed but other conditions and other traffic infractions before they can go the dangerous driving route.
Right. I noticed today, just myself, I noticed that you don't wear a gun. So is this essentially, this is your weapon here? I mean,
no, I am armed. Yeah.
Oh, you are. So, do you ever have? Is there ever a time where you have to move, or you've come under any type of harm or endangerment because being parked here? I mean, is it a concern, or are people generally aware that you're here? And
we're policemen, so we get called into things. My partner and I were calling a man with a gun complaint, and I got myself a stolen vehicle, and we had another complaint about that.
So you will respond in emergency situations?
We're still policemen. The advantage in this particular unit is that you're designated to do this particular job, so you spend the majority of your time doing the job, whereas if I was a traffic policeman in any of the detachments, I'd only be spending maybe 30% of my time doing traffic work, and the rest of the time I'm covering members or going on calls or doing alarms or something like that. And
I'm noticing the speeds here on the monitor, and there's really not that many speeders. I mean, is this working, in your opinion?
Or is
this just a microcosm of actually how people do drive?
In my view, the members have been camping out here with some regularity, so just from word of mouth, people are actually slowing down, so it is slowing.
I noticed a lot of these speeds on here are some of them are just like drastically under the speed limit, like 65 kilometers down here. I mean, would you actually, now, like, they do this on the Florida Turnpike and all that, where like they pull people over because they're suspected drug smugglers if they drive too carefully. Now, is there a concerted effort to like pull over people or like go, look, this person is driving too slow, and thereby be a harm to the flow of traffic?
What we're trying to do is get a consistent flow of traffic, and that'll cut down accidents. We're still quite new,
right?
And so a lot of people slow down to take a look because we are a.
So is this the VCR unit down here?
That's the VCR. And
so like if I've got a tape of like say Jumanji or something like that, and I'm getting bored, don't want to watch traffic anymore, can I slap it in there and put it on? Can you get Channel 4?
I've never tried. What? When this originally came up, I read about a number of different units and a number of different programs, and I wasn't that impressed, and then I did some homework on what they were trying to do here. And what they did is model this program after what they did in the state of Victoria in Australia. And in Australia, between 1989 and 92, they dropped their fatalities by about 50%.
So it actually is proven in Australia, but what about the contention of Alberta, Ontario dropping the system?
There's a number of different systems. In Ontario, the system was raised primarily to make revenue. What happened is they had a tobacco smuggling problem, so they dropped the tobacco tax. But when they did that, they were out $250 million in revenue. So in the same sitting in the legislature, they came up with speed tax, which was photo radar.
Right.
There was no investigation of accident sites. There was
there was no science involved. It was just basically, let's go out there and make some money.
It was out there as a revenue maker, but it's kind of ironic because they were supposed to come up with $200 million in revenue, but they only came up with $13 million in revenue.
So it's just a cash cow for the government.
Yes, but it's also interesting that even though they weren't looking into fatalities and traffic safety, that their fatality dropped by 118 in 1995.
And what about Alberta?
Alberta, I'm not too aware of the process. I've heard a number of reports about them being more revenue makers, and to my knowledge, they don't do the background and the investigation on the accident sites that we do. I think the litmus test is if you tell the people exactly where you are and when you're operating, that means to me that you're not out to see how many tickets you can write. And that means to me that it can't be a revenue maker.
So it's obviously a concerted effort by the government and the police community to get out there, slow traffic down, gauge it, find out where the trouble problems are, troubleshoot the situation, and make sure that these highways are safe for everybody.
I think this is the first program in a long time that's going to do exactly what we say it's going to do, and I think it'll take about a year or two before everybody finally realizes what the rules of engagement are, but I think everybody will apply to when the report card comes in.
What about the flaws that are existing right now in the system that are under contention?
There's what we call a front end and a back end. The front end system involves the photo radar and the police and the taking the pictures, and then the background or the back end operation involves the processing of the pictures. The OCR, which is the machine that actual scans a photograph, finds a plate, brings up the plate, tells another part of the computer I need the registered owner data for that plate, and then sends out the notice. That's apparently what they're having problems with, and that's part of the contractual problem, so I imagine that's going to get worked out sooner or later. But what we're doing right now, we're doing manually, and we came up with...
Can that possibly open a Pandora's box of legalities as far as people contesting the tickets and showing up in court to fight them, or...?
It could be another defense, but basically it depends on the accuracy of the radar and the accuracy of the photo radar, and we've already tested and proven that. And what you've got on the radar is what you get on the photograph, and how the photograph gets developed, I can't see that really coming into a court situation.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for your time today, Ron Casey, and good luck with the system, and hope everything works out.
Thank you.
Well, here's one for the family photo album. For Burnaby Edition, I'm Alan Statch.